Chapter 25 of The Ghosts of Tupelo Landing. This chapter is called Blackmail. Whoever says blackmail doesn't pay hasn't tried it. To everyone's surprise but my own, Red Baker agreed to see us the very next afternoon, Sunday. We'll pump Mr. Red for information on Nellie's murder and the ghost cars, plus his still, I told Dale as we walked across Mr. Red's front yard. I just hope he's in a halfway decent mood. He wasn't. "I don't know what got into him," Harm said as Dale and I tossed our jackets on an old footstool and settled on the duct-tape couch. "All I know is Red slammed his truck door this morning and stomped in here, crumpling a piece of notebook paper. He said, 'Call those blasted friends of yours and tell them I'll do their dad-blammed interviews at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Yours too. You got 20 minutes. But that's the last I want to hear about it. Ever.'" "That was real thoughtful," I said, slipping my tape recorder out of my bag. Dale pulled a tape out of his pocket, blew off the lint, and popped it in. "Gives me a chance to pass history," Harm said. "It's a long shot, but..." "Life's a long shot," Red Baker growled from the hallway door. He stomped into the room, sank into the crippled lazy boy, and glared at me. 20 minutes. Go." I turned on Miss Lana's old tape recorder and hit the record button key. Mo and Dale interview with Mr. Red Baker, Harm Crenshaw assisting. Take 1. "Thanks for inviting us," I said. "I'm glad Miss Lana and Grandmother Miss Lacey decided to let you have the money we found, even if the Colonel says it's theirs." "I see it different," Mr. Red snapped. "There's a lot of seeing different going on around lately," I said, giving him a faux or fake smile. "For instance, seeing ghost cars is different for Dale and me." "Way different," Dale said, leaning forward. "You seen them before, Mr. Red?" The same question had been pacing my mind, followed by others. Who'd drive dead cars down a forgotten path? Where were they going? Well, were they running away from or flying to? Red Baker looked at us, his eyes like steel. "What cars?" he said. Harm frowned. "You know what they're talking about." "The ghost cars that nearly ran us down," Dale said. "The ones you ran away from." Red Baker crossed his arms. "Don't know what you're talking about." "Really?" I said. "Because it figures you've been in those woods plenty of times digging for treasure." "You're crazy," he said, and pointed to the recorder. "You got 15 minutes. "Fine," I said, thrusting the word like a bayonet. Harm wiped his palms on the leg of his pants. "Here's the deal. We need interviews," he said, looking at his grandfather. "All of us do. I'm writing about you and our family's distillery, and they're writing about a girl you used to know." Mr. Red slouched sideways. The sunshine cut a dusty beam through the window and across his grizzled face. "Dale and me are writing about Nellie Blake. Mayor Little's mom thought you could help us with some details." Dale took out his clue pad. "We need thoughts from Nellie's friends because Nellie's, well, I hate to say dead exactly, but..." "I know what she is," he said, his voice sharp. "You leave her alone." I pictured the cemetery, every blade of grass just so. Then I pictured the swing blade leaning against the shed. The room wobbled. It's one thing knowing a ghost. It's another thing when an adult knows her too, even if that adult's Red Baker. "Miss Little says you were first on the scene the night Nellie died," I said. "That makes you an eyewitness to history." "Yes," he said, his voice going dull. "I was that." "She also says somebody tampered with Nellie's car," I added, "that Nellie died in someone else's place." He shrugged. "People say all kinds of things." Dead end. I went another way. "Your daddy and Nellie's daddy worked together. Yours owned the distillery," I prompted. He nodded. "That's right. Blake supplied the spring water and the tavern inside the inn. Papa supplied the recipe and the know-how. We were as legit as they come until Congress outlawed distilleries back in the 1920s and 30s. There was a law against making, selling, or serving alcohol in the 1930s, 20s, and 30s. Old man Blake threw us out like trash and tore the distillery down. It was on his land. We couldn't do a thing to stop him." Dale whistled. So Nellie's daddy ended up nouveau riche and yours didn't. So what? You saying we tampered with Nellie's car? He said in his voice rising. Think that we killed her over money? You wouldn't be the first to say it. Gramps, Harm said, reaching for his arm. Calm down. He snatched his arm away. It's a bald-faced lie, he said, glaring at Dale. Dale scooted to the edge of the settee, a ready-to-run move. We're not saying anything mean, Mr. Red, Dale said. We're just trying to pass history, right, Mo? Right. Mr. Red simmered like the Colonel's sauce pot. I changed tack. What kind of car did Nellie's father drive? Don't know. A Chevy, maybe. Why? He didn't know? That was a bald-faced lie. If people accuse you of tampering with a car and killing somebody, you remember. How about your daddy? I said, very easy. What did he drive? We drive Fords. Family tradition. He drove Model A. Like in the woods, Dale said, his voice soft. Mr. Red flushed. Stop bringing up those woods, confound you. Dale stood up. We better go. Thanks, Mr. Red, but I can see we're barking in the wrong direction on this. Barking up the wrong tree, said Harm and me at the same time. Red Baker sprang to his feet. Why did you follow me into those woods? He shouted. I snatched up the recorder. You couldn't have known I'd be there unless... He wheezed, like somebody had punched him in the gut, and looked at Harm. His old face sagged. You, he said, his voice going gray. A traitor under my own roof. A traitor? No, I'm not, Harm said, rising uncertainly to his feet. Get out, Mr. Red said. Get out! He snarled, grabbing Harm's shirt and twisting it in his fist. He shoved him. Harm staggered toward us like an out-of-kilter scarecrow, his long legs scrambling. Red lunged forward and snatched the tape recorder from my hand. Go! He yelled. He shoved all three of us out and slammed the door behind us. We stood on the porch, stunned by the sudden light. Harm stared out across the yard, blinking fast. The chickens clucked and scratched by the shed. I straightened my messenger bag on my shoulder. That didn't go quite as good as I hoped it would, I said. No, Dale sighed. Probably not. I looked at the closed door. Bully. Hey! I shouted, pounding on the door with both fists. Give us our jackets and Miss Lana's tape recorder. Don't, and I'm calling the law. Silence. You want Joe Starr over here? I'll have him over here before sundown. Mr. Red yanked the door open and hurled a pile of jackets to the porch. Miss Lana's tape recorder sailed by, landing on top. Leave that fancy bike I paid for right where it is, or I'm calling the law, you ungrateful whelp. He slammed the door and clicked the deadbolt into place. I picked up the recorder. He'd kept the tape. Old people, Dale said, handing out the jackets. Mr. Red jerked the window shade down. Let's go to the cafe, I said. The special tonight's goulash a-go-go. Miss Lana's wearing her white go-go boots and tie-dye outfit. Probably can't hold a candle to whatever you're planning, I told Harm, but you might enjoy it. You too, Dale. Dale shook his head. I promised Mama I'd be home before dark. He gave Harm a shy smile. I've been hoping you'd come see my room. You could meet Mama and Newton. It would be nice if you could spend the night. Harm shrugged into his slate gray jacket, not meeting our eyes. You'd be doing Dale a favor, I added. His social skills need work. And you could do your homework together. I didn't mention it, but Harm's books were inside, and when it comes to homework, the only excuse Miss Retzel takes is precise death. Death that happens to the precise student and not a relative. If they have known relatives. Harm zipped his thin jacket to his chin. He stood for a minute, scanning the bramble and trash dog pen, the old shed, the chicken house. I hate this place, he said, and tromped down the steps. And that's the end of chapter 25.